Hey guys, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse podcast here at ProMat 2025, and I am in the Trelleborg Tires booth, and I'm joined by Robert Brown, and he's going to be talking to us about material handling tires today. And we're going to be learning everything there is to know about these tires, and we're also going to dive into some of the latest technology around tires and the importance of them in your operation. So, Robert, thanks for having me in your booth today. How's everything going?
Going very well. It's a good show.
Definitely a good show. And I see a lot of tires around us here, right?
Yes,
Which
you do.
makes sense, definitely. Right? But give us a little brief overview. What is Trelleborg Tires all about? And you're part of Yokohama TWS as well. So tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Sure. Yeah, so about 2 years ago, Trelleborg divested the tire and wheel portion of the Trelleborg group. And Yokohama, as a global company, has looked at investing immensely in the off-highway segment. If you've noticed over the last 5 or 6 years, they've been buying a lot of off-highway tire companies. So they're really growing the brands on the off-highway more than any other manufacturer that I see in the world. They're really putting a focus on it. So what they did 2 years ago, they acquired the Trelleborg Wheel Systems group from Trelleborg Group, if that makes sense. Trelleborg has a pretty solid name, especially in the material handling world. A lot of people, you go out to a warehouse, you go out to a dealer, a lot of them know who Trelleborg is. So one of the important factors is to keep that and not devalue the name or the product line immediately. We have Yokohama has the Trelleborg naming rights to be able to utilize that for. It was 15 years, now we're down to about 13 years, and before they really transition and mold that into the organization. So overall, now that we've moved away from the Trelleborg group, we're part of the Yokohama family. So we've now moved the Yokohama family into the number 5 position on global manufacturers. We have over 30,000 employees globally, and just over $7 billion in global sales.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So
really
some
nice.
Money in tires there, definitely.
There's a little bit, yes, of course. A lot of value.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about that value, because I think, when we look at all these different tires here, there's lots of different types I see here, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about, the value in tires for your material handling equipment and why it's so important to consider them.
So it's really important to understand the not just from an application perspective, but the environment of it as well. And the most important thing for an operator or an operation to understand is how many shifts per day are you running. Think about an Amazon warehouse or something like that, or even think about a small little independent hardware store, right? That independent hardware store might fire that forklift up 3 or 4 times a week. Your Amazon location is a 24-hour operation, and they're 3 shift per day type scenarios, right? So it's imperative. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not a one tire that's going to fit everything. You got to really figure out what tire is going to be working in the proper application. You have heat dissipation, heat buildup. Do you need a smooth tire or a traction tire? I mean, there's so many different variables, but understanding the shifts per day is probably the most important thing to figure out in any warehouse application.
Interesting. So definitely the wear on those tires is what you're going to get, right? Higher usage, more wear, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just that though, too. What you don't want to do is if you're in an Amazon warehouse, you do not really need to have or want to have a traction type tire. You want to have a smooth tire for contact area, contact patch, things like that. And the tire is going to wear better also in that application.
Interesting. So talk to us a little bit, I mean, definitely that understanding there, the wear on the tires and how that can run down over time, right? And obviously we want the right application there, but how does that also kind of affect maybe safety of the equipment, performance of the equipment? How does that factor into what we see around that?
Yeah, so it's very important to understand that. And as a tire wears down, if it wears down too far, you really run the risk of safety, right? Because you change the deflection of the tire, you change the stopping and gripping power of the tire, but then also just lots of different characteristics the tire was actually manufactured and engineered for, right? So also one of the innovations that we've really tried to advance in this industry is we created something called the pit stop line. And what the pit stop line is if you can see it over here, This tire right here, we call it the Pac-Man tire. Once the tire wears down to a certain point, and you start to see an orange line protruding in there. And once the orange line starts protruding, that's when you know you have about 100 hours before you have to replace that tire. Nobody else, to my knowledge, in the industry or in the world has anything like this. And this is all derived from a scrap tire analysis that we did many, many years ago. A couple 100,000 tires we investigated and inspected, and realized that 30% of them, I believe, had a lot of tread left on them, had a lot of life left on them. Yeah. So when you're putting these on at an OEM and selling this premium machine to an end user, their number one thing is, how am I going to get the best life and the best value for that? Well, they're replacing their tires 30% too soon, right? So, and that's the reason why we developed this, so they can make sure that they're getting every penny out of that tire as they possibly can. But then that goes into the opposite too. Some of the tires were worn down too far, and then you run safety risks, and then you get into some safety issues, and that's the last thing any warehouse wants, is any kind of safety concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, pinnacle first when you're going into the warehouse. You want that safety aspect, and obviously, those tires are worn down too low, just like in a car, right? We can run into some issues there. But I love the indicator. I mean, I think that's super smart, because it's really interesting to hear that there's two sides of the table, right? There's people that are throwing these tires out too soon, right? Yep. And there's people that are just like, I'm going to hold on to this tire as long as I can, and hopefully nothing bad goes wrong, right? So it's great to have that indicator, where it's a visual indicator that anybody can easily see and easily take action on, or raise the concern that this tire needs to be replaced at that point, which I think is super smart.
Yep.
Yeah. So now tell us a little bit about, because one thing about the tires, right, is there's different compounds too, right? So tell us, I guess first, what does that mean, and why is that important?
It's extremely important. Material handling is a different world, right? And the way I always kind of try to explain in very simplistic consumer terms, right? Thinking in a consumer market, are you going to take a tire that is in a Honda Accord, and are you going to put that tire on an F1 car that's racing at 200 miles an hour? Exactly. So in that mindset, you need to create, for the different applications that we have in the material handling world, you need to create that same type of environment. We have applications like, I always call the carpet capital of the country, down in Georgia. These carpet rolls are very heavy. You need to have a tire that, one, can be very overloaded, has extreme wear resistance against the massive overloading that it has. You have environments that are in chemical factories where you have oils and you have other different chemicals that are all over the floor in some cases. You need to have a tire that can withstand those types of pressures as well. You have non-marking tires for warehouse applications. If you don't want to run a black tire in those applications, because then you can run slipping hazards, because it leaves black marks and black dust, right? Just not from a visual perspective. Other compounds, such as the electrically conducting product lines that we have, that you've seen on some forklifts out in the world, that in like a firework manufacturing facility, they have grounding straps that go down and touch the ground to try to make sure they're grounded and it doesn't create anti-static or electricity to create a bomb or anything like that. We have tires that we've created that eliminate those straps and that do that job of the magnetic strip, if that makes sense. It's imperative to pick the right tire for the right application. As I said, it's not a cookie cutter. You don't want to take that Honda Accord tire and put it in an F1, but then vice versa. You don't want to take an F1 tire, put it on a Honda Accord. You may think it's going to perform, but it's not. It's going to wear out in like 10,000 miles, and that you did not get the best bang for your buck.
Right. Yeah. I think that's super interesting, because there's a lot that goes into these tires, right? And making sure you have the right application is super important. So I guess to that, in that regard, I mean, when we think about tires, when should we be considering like what kind of tires we have, or when should we be considering maybe we need to switch to a different type of compound, different type of tire? When should we factor that into our decision making?
Everybody should be factoring it into every decision they make, no matter what the application is. But we really need to be looking at what is the application. A lot of times we get into a habit, especially nowadays with, I use Amazon as the example. I do it myself. I just jump on Amazon and I order trash bags and get them sent to my house, right? So we need to remember that it's not a commodity. We really need to make sure that the product is fitting the application of the environment, the application for the machine, but then also the wear rates and the shifts per day that machine is running. So you have to take all those things into consideration when picking the right tire. The best news is, and the best part about it is, Trelleborg is a performance brand, and we cover every angle of the market. We have the value line that if a customer just needs something off the shelf that is a low cost option, that for the hardware store analogy earlier, we have a fitment for that. But we also have a fitment for the most extreme environment that you could possibly think of. We have an alternative for that as well.
Interesting. So wide-ranging variety of options there, and certainly something that I think people should put consideration to, right, as we talked about here today. Now, what about from the perspective of, I'm curious, do you see where people go out, they buy their MHE, like maybe it's Forklift or something like that, and do you see oftentimes you come in where they started out with the wrong tire originally, or how does that work out?
You know, honestly, you don't see that a whole lot because there's a lot of sales training and training aids that happen at a large high-level OEM level, and so when you have a unique application like the carpet company or a chemical company or something like that, a lot of times when that salesperson goes in to sell the machine and sell the forklift, they're seeing and recognizing all of that already, and they know that this particular machine is set up properly for this type of application. So you don't see a whole lot of machines getting out there in the wrong application. Occasionally, if a company owns many different divisions and they would take this forklift and move it into a different department that could potentially have chemicals or something like that, sometimes you'll have those types of scenarios. And then that's where, like, we have a massive amount of sales team out in the field, out in the sales force, out on the road, that get out with the customers and they identify the scenarios like that. And we're able to problem solve for the customers. That's the value of having the sales force out in the field.
All right, interesting, and very good to know, and very good knowledge, I think, here all around tires, so we can think about that and be safer, have better performance, and also understand that we're not wasting tires too, which I think is a big deal as well from a cost perspective. And so tell us a little bit too, like what's happening in the latest with tires, like what's the newest, and where are we heading with tire technology?
It's a great question. You know, tire technology is advancing immensely over the years. We look at it 20 years ago, and there weren't all these different compounds for certain applications, right? Yeah. It's growing so much, but our world is growing so much. Right. We have so many different environments and different applications that get created every day, you know, chemical slippage and things of that nature, the electrostatic tire. There's so many different advancements. Not sure where it's going in the next 10 years, but I'm sure we're gonna have 5 more different types of compounds that are gonna fit certain and specific applications. But the ever so changing market that we see in the world is the nice thing about a performance brand like Trelleborg, is we grow with the market and we grow with the industry, and we're always developing new product lines.
All right, awesome. And we'll definitely be looking forward to those technological advancements and tire evolutions, we'll say, definitely. So really appreciate you giving some insights here on the world of tires and material handling. If people are interested in learning more about Trelleborg, more about tires, what's the best way to get in touch, find out more information?
Sure. So go to Yokohama TWS.com, and that'll take you right directly to the website, and we have everything right there.
Awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate all the information today, Robert.
Thanks, Kevin.
Great to talk to you, and thanks for having me in your booth.
Wonderful. Have a good day.
All right. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, the New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesaresexy.com and get your own.